So nighttime at noon coming to you from our studios in downtown Summerlin, inside City National Arena. The Golden Knights getting set to head out on a 3-game road trip through Western Canada. Stops in Vancouver and then Calgary and then Edmonton. Before that, you're stuck with us. Dave Goucher, Shane Hnidy with you on a Monday, the 11th of April, where the Golden Knights, Shane, there's a lot to get to on the show. We're going to hear from Golden Knights head coach Pete DeBoer. The team is still out on the ice, going through their paces. We're going to pick up Pete DeBoer's press conference before the show is out and before the team and us head to Vancouver. But I guess let's start. What do they say? Let's start at the beginning. Good developments at practice today.
Yes.
Mark Stone out there practicing with Chandler Stevenson and Max Pacioretty on the line. This is something we were hoping might develop. You know, you start to kind of look at, okay, they got Martinez back, McNabb back, Pacioretty back. Mark Stone had been skating, and today skating on a line with his usual line mates.
Well, just go back to last game, how much depth and balance that brought, just throwing Pacioretty back in the lineup the way Pete DeBoer kind of balanced things out. Did it in pairs, Stevenson, Pacioretty together, Marchessault, Carlson, and Eichel, and Dadonov. And, now you bring Stone back so you complete that line. At least that's the way it looks in practice. We'll wait for Pete DeBoer and what his update is on Mark Stone, but they have the Stevenson, Pacioretty, Stone line back together, keeping Dadonov, Eichel, and Waugh, and then Marchessault, Carlson, and Amadio. So, and actually, you should mention that fourth line, Lecision, Ronbjerg, Kolesar. I thought they had a terrific game against Arizona. Certainly, some things might change if Mark Stone is ready to go, because there are some areas that'll need to be taken care of for him to play first, monetary.
Yeah.
You could probably figure all that out, Dave. That's
probably
right up your
not.
alley.
I'm not good with math, but here's another good sign, Shane. And you try to, we kind of look a lot of the practices, and we see most of them here at CNA. I mean, they're I don't say they're run of the mill, but they're off day practices. When you've got a power play unit right now that they were running out here a minute ago, with Stone, Eichel, Pacioretty, Dadonov, and Theodore on the unit, you try to look for signs. Is that player close to playing? And potentially even as soon as tomorrow night or maybe Thursday, you've got Stone practicing with what is their number one power play unit right now.
And a power play that has struggled. That's an area of their game needs to be better, certainly here with the 9 games remaining and points vital each and every night. Your special teams can be the difference, and the power play has not been where it's needed to be either in the game against Chicago. Mark Stone certainly adds that. Max Pacioretty, he's got a game now under his belt since returning. It is definitely a sign, a positive sign. And for the Golden Knights, you can feel the energy. That's the other thing. Every time one of these players gets plugged back in, you can hear the chatter, the excitement, the smiles, everything everything happens a little bit quicker when you're playing with that energy on the ice, even in practices. So certainly we hope this is a real good sign. Well, it's a good sign regardless. It's just a matter of when he's going to be ready. It's the step that Pete DeBoer talked about, integrating him into practice, Mark Stone. And then, a lot of times they like to evaluate how he feels after that and then kind of move forward with the decision.
You mentioned the power play, Shane. The Golden Knights have scored 3 power play goals in their last 9 games, all in one game, right? The win and a good win for them against a good Nashville team here a couple of weeks back. That's been the only game they've been able to cash in on the power play. I guess the good news is that starting with that game, they've now won 6 out of 7. It looked like they were in real bad shape, right? They lost all 5 on that road trip, came home, won a couple of games against Florida and L.A., go to Minnesota and Winnipeg, lose again. Now you're talking 7 losses in 9 games. It's not looking promising for them. A combination of they've been able to turn things around, some other teams struggling, right? Dallas lost to New Jersey the other day. I know they came back and won against Chicago yesterday, but the Kings blow a 3-goal lead yesterday in Minnesota. Up 3-0, 10 minutes in, lose 6-3. So, whereas maybe, a couple of weeks ago, and certainly coming off that 0-5 road trip, I remember we talked about it on television saying there might come a point here where the math is not going to add up for them. Yep. Games played, they're going to, they played more games than anybody. But they are still very, very much alive in this playoff race. A combination of their good play and some other teams that have hit the skids.
And the return of players.
Yes.
You know, they wouldn't have been able to turn around with the additions of McNabb, Martinez, even Zach Whitecloud back in the lineup. You know, and then you bring Pacioretty, now possibly Stone. It just makes a huge difference for this team. They look completely different. It gives them the opportunity to compete, to be a elite team again when you bring back those stars into your lineup. And yeah, they went on the run. That still didn't allow. They still were. You said the other teams were doing the same thing. They hadn't gained ground, so you need a little bit of help. They've gotten that now. Basically, they're at the point now with the Kings that they have the possibility one game in hand, and they can tie them. So playing a Vancouver team they've seen a lot of, a chance to really kind of bury Vancouver, who's kind of hanging on behind them, 4 points behind. So can make more separation in the standings there. And the big thing, pull even with the Los Angeles Kings. It is a massive game in hand for them to try and pull even and put themselves in a playoff position, because I think the way in for the Golden Knights is through hitting that third spot in the Pacific.
Yeah, the Kings have lost 3 in a row and 5 of their last 7, coming off just a tough one yesterday in Minnesota. You made the point, Shane, and we showed this on the TV sets recently too. As well as they've played, they haven't gained ground, right? But they haven't lost any either. It could have been very easy for them to go the other way. They haven't done that. Right now, at this hour, 2 points behind Dallas for the second wild card spot, 2 points behind the Kings for third in the Pacific. And as you said, I agree with that, that could be the more viable route for them. Golden Knights have a game in hand on L.A. Dallas has a game in hand on Vegas. It shapes up to be, and we're so used to them cruising to a playoff spot, right?
Yeah, now you're just kind of tune up for playoffs.
Yeah.
And there is that flip side, and Pete DeBoer talked about it. Some of the players they're already in playoff mode, and sometimes there's those teams that get to playoffs, they scratch, they claw, they get into it, they're already playoff ready. They don't need a game or two. So the Golden Knights, they've been in playoff mode for a while. They're going to be in it right through to the end of the season, and hopefully they get in, then they're maybe that step ahead, ready to go, and they can be a dangerous team once they get there.
4 teams right now separated by 3 points. Nashville at 87, L.A. at 86, Dallas at 86, Golden Knights at 84. That's how tight it is. It shapes up to be just a fascinating final couple of weeks of the season. I guess 2.5 weeks. Now, that's not to say it's not easy on the heart day to day, seeing how the Golden Knights do and how the teams that they're chasing do. But it is one heck of a run that you hope this team can go on down the stretch. Most recently, Shane, you mentioned the return of Max Pacioretty coming on the heels of recent returns for Braden McNabb and Alec Martinez. The Golden Knights, they go on that road trip, 3-gamer, Seattle for 2, Van for 1, win all 3. Come back home, and you're hoping they can keep it going, and then they lose to Vancouver, right? I know we
hiccup.
Yeah, and we talked after the game. Look, if they've got an 8-point cushion for a playoff spot, a game like that at home, you might fluff it off a little bit. You have a bit of a clunker at home. They're not in a position to have any clunkers, but they're going to happen. And to their credit, they came right back and took care of Arizona fairly easily on Saturday night.
And that makes it much easier to digest, is when they can bounce back and play the way they did against the Coyotes, a team that they should beat, and they did beat in Arizona. So, yeah, you certainly don't want to see those games at this time of the year. They happen to everyone, but the timing could not have been worse for them to kind of put up that clunker against Vancouver. They did, and then the next step is, if you do, you've got to move on quickly and get back right to that level of play you need, and they were able to do that against Arizona. Now it's, so Coyotes, now you got Vancouver, so it's a team that goes up like this. It's going to continue their competitions going up throughout this road trip as they start in Vancouver and move on from there to Calgary, who's, I think they're a real strong physical team that's, you got to fight for every inch in that game. And then, you look at the Oilers, certainly top-heavy talent with McDavid, Draisaitl, what they've been able to do. They've been playing great hockey. It seems like they've locked it up defensively. Their goaltending's better. So tough road trip ahead.
Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Great to have you with us on all of our social media channels. Let's do this, guys. Let's dip in right now. Golden Knights head coach Pete DeBoer with his post-practice media session. Here is the Golden Knights head coach.
That's as close to our group as we've had in a long, long time. So obviously, he's a critical piece for us, and we've missed him. So even to have him out there, even if he's not at 100% and full game speed. It's nice to have him back and integrated with the group.
Is tomorrow a target for him, or is that too soon?
No, it's a possibility. We'll see. I would call it a game time. He's going to travel with us, and we'll make a decision then.
We didn't see Matthias Scanwork out there.
Just maintenance. He took a high stick last game. He was at the dentist this morning, so it should be fine.
As the team's getting healthy, has it been more of a benefit that the defense is getting healthier, people forwards, to sort of get that in place?
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, I think I've said before, I think it's easier to survive without forwards than it is when you start losing veteran defensemen. It's just a big ask for young guys to step into this league. You can fill in one guy, but when you're filling in 3 or 4 guys into your 6, it really changes the way you play. They're not confident in their gaps. Their execution sometimes isn't at this speed. So, it affects your breakouts, it affects your whole game all the way up the ice. So, I think, it was nice to get our defensive group back. I think that solidified our defensive game. And now as we're adding forwards back, hopefully that'll solidify some of our offensive pieces.
With the defensemen that you have on this team, some of the names,
Yeah.
Ben's played a pretty big role since he got.
Yeah, he's done a great job. Nick Hague, I'm a huge fan, and he was a big part of this team. But he got injured, and we needed somebody to step up. And Ben, for a guy, it's hard to believe he was sitting around waiting for a job at the point that we got him, because he's an NHL defenseman. He's done a really good job for us.
It's probably easy to overstate, but what's the importance of this road trip for you guys?
Well, I think we all know the situation. So, I will say we're not going to make or miss the playoffs in the next 5 days. So I think however it goes, we've got to make sure that we manage the fact that, I think this is going to come down to the last couple games of the season. And, we've just got to take it night by night. And, at the same time, we're probably not going to run the table. So, we've got to handle the highs and lows of what's going to come at us here over the next 3 weeks the right way.
Between Kay, Houghton, Carrier, and Brossoit, do you expect any of them on the trip?
None of them on the trip, no.
I know you don't want to harp back on the last time you played these guys.
Yeah.
But defensively, was there a lot that was easily correctable with you back in the
Yeah, it wasn't X and O stuff. It was just a battle level. They were a hungrier, more desperate team than us that night for whatever reason. I'm sure, they're in a playoff hunt where, they have almost no margin of error. So you're going to get that, and we have to be ready for that. That can't surprise us.
Is there anything else for Pete?
No.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Well, you're all right. You're limping around.
No, I got something. Don't worry about it.
You
I'll be fine.
You weren't with Millard on a tandem bike or somewhere.
We'll let you know what's going to be on.
Well, the very end of the media conference with Pete DeBoer, that's I don't know if you could pick it up. It was Gary Lawless on the side there that I don't know if he was limping around or not.
We're going to have to
And,
look into this.
and he mentioned, and it's a good segue into sending our best out to our man Darren Millard, who had a cycling accident on Friday. Good news is he's back home. He was not on a tandem ride with Gary Lawless. He was on his own. But good to hear improving news about Darren Millard, our host on AT&T Sportsnet, and hosts everything. 4 to 6 show on here on Fox Sports Radio, and but good to hear him. So Pete DeBoer mentioned Matthias Janmark going to the dentist today. Took a stick in the mouth from Andrew Ladd the other night. Rumor has it Millard might be headed to the dentist today too after his little mishap on Friday.
Might pass by him.
Like two ships passing in the night. But anyway, so we'll step aside. We come back, we'll kind of pick apart some of the things that Pete DeBoer mentioned in his press conference. A massive road trip coming up here for the Golden Knights: Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. As it stands right now, the Golden Knights sitting outside the top 8 in the West, but just 2 points behind Dallas and Los Angeles. Before we step aside, a reminder for you that the Craggy Range is the perfect place to enjoy a pregame or a postgame meal, or to come watch your Knights as on one of Craggy Range's big screen TVs or on their huge outdoor LED screen. Enjoy your favorite craft beer, wine, bourbon, or all kinds of cocktails while you can catch all the action as well. And find their full menu for the whole family, plus a full bar with 16 beers on tap. Craggy Range at the Dollar Loan Center, and it even features an extended patio as well. The Craggy Range Sports Bar and Grill is open daily. No ticket required. Dave and Shane with you on a Nighttime at Noon Monday. We'll have lots more after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Great to have you with us. Nighttime at Noon, coming to you from City National Arena, Studio 31. The Golden Knights getting set to embark on a 3-game road trip through Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton. Dave Goucher alongside Shane Hnidy. Great to have you with us as the Golden Knights down now to their final 9 games of the season. Only 3 left at the Fortress, 6 on the road for this team as they try to make a push to get into the top 8 and make the Stanley Cup playoffs for the 5th year in a row. Quick reminder for you, stop by where we are right now, City National Arena, located in downtown Summerlin. Bring the family to learn to skate like the pros at the official practice facility of the Vegas Golden Knights. For hours and programming, visit citynationalarena.com. Pete DeBoer just had his daily press briefing, Shane, and a couple of interesting things that Pete mentioned. And it's interesting how he put it. This trip is not – they're not going to make or miss the playoffs on this trip, but it certainly could have an enormous impact on whether they make or miss it. They've still got 9 games left, but it's every point every night is enormous of what's on the table for them.
And that's what you want the coach to say. You don't want to, put it where there's that amount of pressure, that you're going in and you're looking at it more big picture than small, right? You don't want to go in, okay, we've got to win these 3 games. They know they've got to go well. They all know the situation they're in. But to take, the coach will take pressure off player. We've got to worry about Vancouver and then move on from there. Important each and every night for them to kind of, find these points, find the right way to play. Coach is breaking down team by team, the game plan that needs to be executed. As he mentioned, Vancouver, it wasn't X's and O's last game. It was the other one, effort. Yeah. And they've got to be able to match that. These are desperate teams. Every team you play this time of the year has, got real motivation for what they want to do in the game, and you've got to be able to match that and execute your game plan as best as possible. So when you look at it, you can't be too big picture. Yes, there's a big picture. They all know how important these final 9 games are. They all want to make playoffs, but you can't put the pressure on, say, we got to go 8-1, we got to go 9-0. They've got to go and beat Vancouver. And then move on from there. That's the way it's got to break down, and that's got to be the mentality, of the whole team right now at this point.
Golden Knights, as we speak, have 7 men out of their lineup. They're hoping to reduce that number. Pete DeBoer said Mark Stone, game time decision tomorrow in Vancouver. So still 6 men out. Those 6 are Haig, Howden, Smith, Patrick, Carrier, and Brossoit. None of those half dozen are going to make the trip through Western Canada. But they will get their captain back on this trip, at least to make the trip. Whether he plays tomorrow or in Calgary or in Edmonton remains to be seen. I just took a peek, Shane. It's been one of those seasons for Mark Stone, right? He's missed 45 games due to injury. Played the opener against Seattle, got hurt the next game against the Kings, missed 12. Missed 4 out of 5 near the holidays, missed a couple of more in the 3rd week of January. Now he's missed the last 26, right? He has not played since right after the break. He was part of the All-Star weekend here in Vegas, played the game in Edmonton, but then got to the point he could not play on back-to-back nights. They had that next night in Calgary, which didn't go well on a lot of fronts, right? But 45 games out for Mark Stone this year, and you hope now, so he hasn't played in, 2 months anyways,
yeah.
That if and when they can get him back, they could get him back for the rest of the season. Just the enormous boost in every possible way he would give this team.
It is. It's a huge boost. And, no offense to everybody else you just mentioned on that list, but if there's one player they're looking to come back first, it's Mark Stone. He's yet to be in the lineup same time as Jack Eichel. And it said 45 games he's missed. Max Pacioretty's missed 43. So you go any lineup in the league and you take out their top goal scorer and their top point getter from the previous season going in this year. McDavid, Landeskog, or McDavid, Draisaitl. You take out Landeskog, McKinnon, or Rantanen.
Right.
Whatever pairing
Point,
you do, and see how that team
Kucherov.
can survive.
Right.
So the fact the Golden Knights, and it's been imperative that they've gotten these guys back now, that they still have a chance to get into playoffs, and they can be a very dangerous team. They can get there first and be healthy when they get there. So huge news that Stone's going to be a game-time decision. I talked about what that does, the jolt of energy it'll send throughout the team. Just him being out for practice, you could feel it. Him and Pacioretty, Stevenson back together. They're starting to see this group that they thought they would have now is kind of starting to come together. There's still some pieces out that they would love to have back, guys you mentioned on that list. But a big step in the right direction here at the most crucial time of the season for the Golden Knights.
Eichel, Pacioretty, and Stone, the three of them have not been together once all year.
No.
Right? Eichel came back, made his return February the 16th. By that point, Stone was out. Let me kind of pick through this. Then Pacioretty played a few games when Eichel, more than a few. Played, well, not much more than a few. Played 5, it looks like, on quick glance, maybe 4. And then he left the lineup, came back, played 3.5 games, left again. We know the story. So that trio has not been together all year, but interesting to note at practice today, they were not together at practice, right? They put Stevenson, Stone, Pacioretty, who have done a lot of good things over the last couple of years back together.
Well, now they got the offensive, and just to go back to what Pete DeBoer talked about, it's really interesting. He said, you can survive longer with forwards out than defense. Key part of this team is needing to defend, and they missed Martinez for a huge chunk. Then they lost McNabb. Whitecloud's, had his pieces. Nick Hague's been out of the lineup. So they were able to get healthy there first, which I think was important. The other important piece is they were without Robin Lehner for a long time this year, and he's going to be key going forward. And he made the comments himself. Says being good isn't good enough. They've got to raise the bar, and goaltending is one of the most important pieces of the game this time of the year and in playoffs. So his game's come along now as he's back healthy, getting in more reps, more games. So they'll need him to be good. The defense group looks solidified. I've talked about the importance of Ben Hutton, who I think has been terrific this year. He's played anywhere from top 2, top 4, top 6, and he's one of those guys that can kind of adjust his game to whatever need. It doesn't change much, but you know what you're going to get each and every night. And now if they can bring back, and I talked about that depth. Now you look at those top 3 lines. Stevenson, Eichel, and Karlsson are your centers. That's depth. That's as deep as they've been up front. As they get ready here to go on this road trip.
Yeah, we've wondered all season long, really, were they ever going to be able to get everyone together at the same time? They're probably still not going to be able to do that.
No.
But if Stone returns on this road trip, this would be as close as they have been for a long, long time. Riley Smith's a big part of what they do, right?
Yes.
Top 6 forward. He's out. He's been out long term. Nick Hague in their top 4, top 6. He's out significant period of time. You've got Houghton that's kind of played 3rd, 4th line most of this year, mostly 4th. Nolan Patrick has just been another tough year for him with injuries. Will Carrier's effective in what he does?
He'd be a guy that's in that line. You think, solidifying that 4th line that, brings that physicality, brings that energy each and every game. He's a big part of that.
And Laurent Brossoit, right, who's, unfortunately for him, the results haven't been there in his last 8 starts, and the last one hasn't been for a while now. That game in Winnipeg, the game they lost, he got pulled in that game. He's lost 7 of his last 8 starts. So, but Logan Thompson's come in, right, and maybe provided a little bit of stability to the, and now with Leonard back, they've got a tandem that they're pretty comfortable with. But if you're the Golden Knights, it's that old saying, Shane, you're either gonna make it or not make it with your best guys, right?
You have to.
And Leonard's played all 3 since he's been healthy enough to get back in there.
And it's not a heavy schedule. You've got 1 back-to-back, I think, remaining this year. And I do expect we'll see Logan Thompson at some point, but Robin Lehner will be given, the net as long as he can. And if he continues to perform well and they continue to win games, that's exactly what you do. You stick with your number 1 guy.
Well, nighttime at noon, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to take a little closer look at this road trip coming up. Vancouver tomorrow, Calgary Thursday, and then Edmonton Saturday afternoon game, by the way, 1 o'clock here, Pacific time for the finale of that road trip. Dave and Shane with you, nighttime at noon on a Monday on all of our social media channels, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and always, of course, on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Great to have you with us here. Nighttime at noon with the Golden Knights getting ready to head on a 3-game road trip inside now their final 9 games of the regular season, 3 on home ice and 6 on the road. 2 3-game road trips for the Golden Knights, right? You got this one coming up, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and then another 3-game, or their final 3 games of the regular season in Dallas, Chicago. That's the back-to-back, Shane, you mentioned, the only one they have left back-to-back. They end their regular season in St. Louis coming up here on the 29th of April. I mentioned before, Shane, I look at that game against Dallas April 26th, and I think, would it come down to that?
Quite possible.
Quite possible, or it could come down to the game 82 in St. Louis. That's how tight it is in the playoff race in the West. Of course, a quick reminder for you, don't miss the first concert at the Dollar Loan Center as Billboard chart-topping country star Easton Corbin and friends headline the TDLC, easy for me to say, TDLC, housewarming party on Friday, April 29th. Tickets start just $25, and a VIP package also available for the ultimate experience as this celebration of country music. You don't want to miss it at the Dollar Loan Center. Visit thedollarloancenter.com for details on this landmark event at Henderson's newest entertainment venue. April 29th. Shane and I cannot make it. We'll be busy doing the hockey game in St. Louis.
We missed a lot of good stuff.
But if you're not busy, check it out at the Dollar Loan Center. Easton Corbin, the first ever concert at the Dollar Loan Center coming up on the 29th of April. This road trip, Shane, Vancouver first up. So the Golden Knights split the home and home recently. Yeah. Winning in Vancouver, Shea Theodore, the overtime goal, had that run of 3 straight game winners on that trip, both in Seattle and then in Vancouver. Then the Canucks come back here. Pete DeBoer talked about they were the hungrier, desperate team, winning on last Wednesday here at T-Mobile Arena. Since the win against Vegas, they've knocked off Arizona and San Jose. So they've won 3 in a row now. The Canucks are hanging by a thread, but hanging nonetheless to their playoff hopes. They're 6 out, 6 back of Dallas, 6 back of L.A., I guess, as well, 4 back of the Golden Knights. So, they would virtually have to run the table, get a lot of help, but still in the conversation right now.
So look at it from their standpoint. They're looking, we have a chance to be 2 behind Vegas. I'm the Golden Knights. We got a chance to put them 6 points behind us, and that's what the Golden Knights need to think. This is a game they should win. If they're prepped the right way, they approach it the right way, they should beat Vancouver. Vancouver has some very, very good pieces up front. Elias Pettersson's been red hot. Bo Horvat, JT Miller, what a career season he's had. Offensively, they didn't have Hughes last game, but he's a big part of it. Demko's the type of goalie that we've seen before, can steal a game. So they need to be ready, but this is a game, to me, on this road trip. They need to start it the right way, and they should win this game against Vancouver because the next couple of games, the competition goes up.
Well, next up, right, Calgary after that on Thursday. The Flames have been fantastic virtually all year long. They just recently hit a little bit of a dip. They lost 3 in a row for the first time in 2.5 months. Well, they took care of that. Now they've won 4 straight after that little dip in their play. So they sit atop the Pacific Division as they have for most of the season. Number 2 in the West, only to Colorado. 7-point lead on Edmonton, so pretty comfortable lead for Darryl Sutter's team atop the Pacific. And I don't have to go into chapter and verse what happened to the Golden Knights the last time when they were in Calgary, but it was not. It was a pretty forgettable night for them.
Feels like we've had a lot of those in Calgary. There's not been a good building for the Golden Knights, and they need to kind of change that narrative as quickly as possible. But you look at this Flames team. I mentioned they're very physical. They don't give you a lot. They're good defensively. Markstrom's been great in net. I think they have. And then offensively, arguably one of the best lines in hockey, Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk. All 3 guys, Gaudreau and Tkachuk, have 34 goals apiece. Lindholm has 38. Johnny Gaudreau, 99 points in the season. So, and it's good to kind of go up against those offensive powers to learn how, you're going to have to do it as a team to try and shut them down. I think the Golden Knights are more set up with the defensive group they have. Different guys can set those matchups. But it's going to be a good first step because right after that, you got those. Gaudreau sits in the top 4 in points this season. Well, then you're going to meet You're going to meet a guy named Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl the next night, two extremely dangerous offensive players.
Johnny Gaudreau tied for 4th in league in a point with 99 with Austin Matthews. Leads the league at plus 54 so far this year. Matthew Tkachuk tied for 6th in scoring with 89 points. He's at plus 47, which is
that line.
Lindholm's plus 51. So I can't do that math off the cuff, but that's
so they're
real
on
good.
for a lot more goals for than against.
That's really good. And to your point, Shane, the Oilers have been a unique story this year, right?
Yeah.
They were in a brutal spot earlier this season. I'll back up a little bit. They started great. They 15-5 out of the gates. Then they hit the skids. Made a coaching change. Dave Tippett out. Jay Woodcroft elevated from their AHL team. And since the change, they've gone 19-7-3, including a run here recently. 12-2-2 in their last 16 games, where they've created some separation now where they're, a team that you would think, unless something ridiculous happens, is going to make the playoffs. Missing was not an option for this team this year when you think about, their lack of playoff success really since they went to the Cup final almost 16 years ago. But right now, Edmonton in 2nd in the Pacific, 90 points behind Calgary. And they've really taken off since they made the coaching change.
Well, I think Woodcroft's done a couple of things that I've noticed. I think, to point, and Dave Tippett, when, they had a great start, then they're losing, you're trying to change. I think just too much ice time for your top 2 players. And I think they've balanced it out more. So that's one step. I think they've been better defensively. I think Woodcroft's come in and they've made some changes to the defensive game. This is a team that can score. When you got those 2 guys in McDavid and Draisaitl, you're going to find goals. You put them on the power play, it's extremely dangerous, but they have to keep them out of the net. So number one defense, and maybe the biggest thing was, let's be honest, their goaltending was just horrible for a long stretch. And now it seems Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen are playing a lot better in net for them. How long can that last? Mike Smith still doing it, not a young man. It's go. I'm always for those guys in the 40s, but Koskinen, he played well the other night. They had a real good game against the Avalanche that ended up being settled in a shootout. It's a tough road trip ahead. Those 2 teams playing good hockey in the Pacific, they're rivals. Like we said, Vancouver, that's why I think it's so important to start with a positive. Tomorrow night in Vancouver, get a W there is going to be very paramount here for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, the Oilers just had reeled off 6 straight wins. That came to an end. They lost in a shootout to Colorado Saturday, but they have been on a real good run. And for the Golden Knights, a tough test coming up here. 9 games to go in their regular season, and the next 3 coming up on the road for this team. If you're just joining us, good news at practice today. Mark Stone practicing on a line with Chandler Stevenson and Max Pacioretty. So it looks like if everything goes positive, comes out of today's practice okay, Pete DeBoer saying maybe a game-time decision for tomorrow night. But, from the Golden Knights standpoint, able to rip off 6 wins in their last 7. Before we go to break, Shane, what about Braden McNabb the other night?
Yeah, we got to talk about
3-point
that.
game.
I love it.
Not expected from him. They pay him to do other things, but his first ever 3-point night.
And well-deserved. This is a guy that, approaches the game the same way each and every game, does all the hard work, the block shots, the hits, the physicality, matched up against the other team's best, penalty kill, all the hard areas of the game. And, it's great when a guy like that gets rewarded offensively. He picked up a pair of assists, then scored a goal in the 3rd period. And, he has all his teammates behind him. They enjoy when guys like that can put out an offensive performance, the best of his career. And, I think for Braden McNabb, he's not worried about that. But, it's a nice tip of the cap for him to have a good game, to feel and help contribute offensively with his guys. But I think it's the other players that enjoy those nights a little bit more because they know how important Braden McNabb is to this team, what he brings. So great night for him. It's always good I always love to see the D-men chipping in. Well, those type of D-men, Pietrangelo, Theodore, they do it. But it's good when the McNabbs can come out and have a great game offensively.
We had Braden McNabb on our podcast just last week, right? Sheriff Lawless, some guy named Dave, and we also had him on Nighttime at Noon not too long ago after he had signed his contract extension. And I still get a kick out of it. You know, he mentioned on Nighttime at Noon and then reiterated it on the podcast that when he came over here in the expansion draft from the Kings, he wasn't sure he was even going to be able to make the team. And I thought, well, why is that the case? And so you got to remember, they had a lot of defensemen, right? They took a slew of defensemen in that expansion draft. He said, I only played a couple of exhibition games, and then your mind kind of gets wandering a little bit, but
and
he's more than made it.
The thing he told us that really stuck with me, and I've been a big believer in it, when you see being part of a championship team and being part of good teams, is guys understanding their role and doing it to the best of their ability. And he said that was a thing that changed when he came here. He felt he had a role and knew what his job was. And he's been able to do it each and every night. I think he's a pro. He's brought consistency to his game. That comes with age. So, but he said, he knows his role. And that's so important if you want to be a good player on a great team, is knowing your role, knowing how to play that, not trying to overextend it. He sticks to what he can. He gets rewarded, like we said, every now and then, like a game against Arizona, but for the most part, he's more worried about taking care of his own end, breakouts, blocking shots, shutting down the other team's power play, shutting down their other team's top players, and he understands how to play that role. He understands it's really defined for him, and that's why they've kept him here since the beginning.
Was attached to the hip there for a few seasons with Derek Englund. Now he and Shea Theodore have made a nice tandem as well over the last couple of years. And you think about, you touched on this, Shane, the impact that has on Theodore, right?
Oh.
And I guess Martinez coming back too, but, slotting Theodore with McNabb, real good stay-at-home defenseman, puts Theodore maybe in some more opportunities to succeed offensively where he knows McNabb has his back.
Well, I think it's like you, Dave. He has his comfort blanket. That's what McNabb is for Theodore.
Like Linus.
It really is. He knows McNabb's there. It allows him to have that little bit more of confidence to jump up in the play, knowing McNabb can back him up. I think having a guy that physical, helps a player like Shea Theodore. Just that they've played together. They have a lot of chemistry. Theodore's talked about how well McNabb, the communication they have. And when you play with a guy, sometimes you don't always need that talk. You can just read off certain things they're doing. So, those guys have built a lot of chemistry as a defensive pair. And you can tell they enjoy playing as partners.
Well, Nighttime at Noon, Dave and Shane with you here from City National Arena. We're going to take a break. One final segment to come. We're going to take a look around the NHL. A few things I want to kind of look at. The season that Austin Matthews has had off the hook with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Evgeny Malkin going to have a hearing today, cross-checking the mouth of Mark Borowiecki yesterday in that game against Nashville. And how about the University of Michigan? Some of the players that went real high in the draft last year, some leaving the Wolverines, turning pro. Do the Golden Knights have one of those players that could be signing in the not-too-distant future? We'll get into that and lots more. Nighttime at Noon continues after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas. All right, closing in on the finish line here. Another week of nighttime at noon. Dave Goucher, Shane Hnidy with you today. And great to have you with us. All of our social media channels, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and also, of course, on your radio home for the Golden Knights, Fox Sports Las Vegas. A reminder for your friends, the spectacular Hotel Californian in Santa Barbara, California is the newest exciting addition to the Foley Entertainment Group. Experience an extraordinary stay in one of 121 luxury guest rooms and suites. Taste the region's finest wine at Foley Food and Wine Society Tasting Room, and treat yourself to an unparalleled massage as well at Majorelle, the Macaronian-inspired spa, all in the heart of the American Riviera. Designed for domestic and international guests alike, Hotel Californian is the perfect destination for any traveler seeking a one-of-a-kind luxury experience. Hotel Californian is Santa Barbara's premier urban destination. Check it out today. HotelCalifornian.com and book your stay. Golden Knights have a trip booked to Western Canada coming up. Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. The next three on the docket as the Golden Knights try to break into the top 8 in the Western Conference. Vegas winners of 6 of 7, trying to take advantage of some other teams that are faltering, most notably the LA Kings, who have dropped 3 in a row and 5 of their last 7. Teams that have already clinched a playoff spot around the NHL: Florida, Colorado, Carolina, the Rangers, and Toronto already have punched their ticket to the postseason. We mentioned one of those teams, Shane, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the year of Austin Matthews. So the Toronto Maple Leafs have had a team for 104 years. No one has ever had an offensive season like he has had in the goal-scoring department. Up to 58 goals now, 60 certainly within striking distance for him. Broke Rick Vive's record of 54 goals, but
50 and 50 games.
50 and 50.
A stretch of 50 games,
Yeah.
50 goals and 50. It's just been unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, the league, so Gretzky had, 50 and 39. Rocket Richard had 50 and less than 50. But, they go by in the first 50 games. But we're talking Matthews' 50 games. 50 goals in a 50-game stretch in his season.
It's incredible to think of being able to do that in today's game. And, we've seen offense come up this year, and part of it is just the skill level of these players that are coming in the league. And Austin Matthews has done it right from the beginning. He's healthy. He's such a big, strong guy. His release is, as good as it gets when he shoots the puck, and his accuracy. But he scores different ways. He's got that great shot, but he's such a big body. He's good in front of the net. That's a pretty good guy in Mitch Marner that feeds him the puck a lot. But, for the Leafs and what Matthews has done, I think you got to consider, is he the front runner right now for the MVP? Is 58 goals in 67 games.
Unbelievable run for Austin Matthews in one of the great hockey markets on the planet. The big thing for him and that team, obviously, is what do they do come May and potentially June, right? That's as great. And I always had somebody say once, be sure to enjoy where you're at. I think sometimes people make the mistake. I probably did it when I was younger of, all right, I'll be happy when this happens and that happens, and if I get this or if I get that.
Could you giving advice to
What about where you're at right now, David? Somebody said that to me once. That's a valid point. But, and this has been an unbelievable year for Matthews. But, that team is going to be under a lot of pressure, especially after what happened last year against Montreal in the playoffs, blowing a 3-1 lead. They haven't done anything in the playoffs, since before the lockout that wiped out the whole year in 04-05. So we'll see what happens once the postseason starts. But not to be lost in all this, just a historical season that he's had.
It is. It's an incredible season, and as you said, for him to do it, playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs just magnifies it. Certainly in Canada anyways, but we get a lot of that trickle effect down here in the United States.
Congratulations to Manny Viveros and company, the Henderson Silver Knights, back-to-back seasons in the Calder Cup playoffs. Great work by the HSK as they're headed back to play for a Calder Cup. And how about, Shane, so the University of Michigan, the Wolverines, so congratulations, University of Denver won the College Hockey National Championship in Boston. They knocked off Minnesota State on Saturday. The Pioneers win their 9th NCAA title. They beat Michigan in overtime in the semis of the Frozen Four, so that put an end to the season for the Wolverines. How about the draft last year? We worked it here, right?
Yeah.
4 of the top 5 picks were either going to Michigan or had committed to go to Michigan. You've got 3 of them that have already signed, right? Owen Power signs. He was number 1 overall. signs with Buffalo. He's going to make his debut, they expect, tomorrow night in Toronto. Matty Beniers went number 2. He goes to Seattle, just signed yesterday, practiced today. He's expected to make his NHL debut on this road trip. Kraken go to Calgary and Winnipeg. 5th in the draft, Kent Johnson, already signed with Columbus, right?
He's expected to play.
Yep. Luke Hughes went 4th. He had committed to go to Michigan. He was going into his freshman year. He's going to stay for another year in Ann Arbor. 4 of the top 5 picks with Michigan ties in that draft last year. So I bring it up because you wonder what the Golden Knights are going to do here. Brendan Brisson was the first-round pick, not last year, but the year before, right? 29th pick in the 2020 draft for the Golden Knights. Had a real good season for the Wolverines. You wonder if that's something that might be on the horizon here in the near future.
Well, I'm sure it's something they're working on. And, you think of Brisson, this is a guy, immediately everybody thinks of his shot. He's a goal scorer. He's got an unreal release one-timer. He finds the back of the net. And, after the year he had, the next step for him is to go pro and see what he can do there and begin his pro hockey career, whatever level that's at. But it'll be interesting here. I'm sure the Golden Knights have had conversations with him and his team, and we'll see where it moves on. But, pretty amazing that, once Denver got past them, it seemed like it was wide open because the Michigan were the heavy favorites.
Yeah, what a wagon they had, and now they've got 3 players that have left. We'll see if Brisson ends up leaving as well. But, just some what a program, to have 4 players come out of that program. Well, 5, really, when you think about Brisson from the year before. So we'll see if that ends up happening or not. But Brendan Brisson, 21 goals, 42 points for Michigan this year in 38 games. So, all right, well, the Golden Knights, Shane, that's, I said, shaping up to be one heck of a final 2.5 weeks of the regular season. We'll see if they can fight their way into the top 8 in the West. They've been in this run for a while. One day they're in a playoff spot. The next day they're out of a playoff spot. It might be that way until the end of the regular season. As long as when the music stops, they've got a chair. They're not left without one anyways.
Well, they are. So everybody's got to cheer for the Golden Knights. Who are they cheering for tomorrow night? And who do the Kings play? That's what I wanted to
Can you
check.
find that out on your
Chicago.
On your
so everybody
telephone?
cheer for Chicago and the Golden Knights tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The Golden Knights have talked about that. Zach Whitecloud put it pretty good the other day. We can scoreboard watch all we want, and we do. It's part of what we do. But if you don't carry your own backyard, all of it is irrelevant. But they have taken a lot better care of their own backyard over the last couple of weeks, right? Winning 6 out of 7.
Have.
So hopefully that trend continues. The Golden Knights next up, 3-game swing, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. Of course, you can watch Shane and I along with the rest of our gang on AT&T Sportsnet. And Dan and Gary have the call, as always, on the radio side. Thanks for tuning in. Get well wishers to Darren Millard. Hopefully have him back in our lineup here real soon as well. That'll do it for us. Talk to you next time on Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas.